Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mayor Talks. Today, I have an amazing guest. I've been really looking forward to this interview. But I think I'm going to let him introduce himself. Rabbi?
Right, yes, I'm Rabbi Boaz Saby from the Messianic Synagogue in Colston, and I'm the head of the synagogue.
Well done, thank you. I should have said to those that are new to the channel, I'm the Mayor of Croydon, and I'm doing a series of these interviews, in particular at the moment in the lead up to Holocaust Memorial Day. Croydon always marks this very, very important point in the calendar in a big way. And it normally involves a large event in the town hall, which due to COVID, quite understandably, we won't be able to do. However, there's going to be a video which I'm going to have the honour of introducing on the day itself. But this series of interviews is designed to try and encourage people to be aware of that video and also to talk around the issues contained in it, and also to promote Croydon, continue to promote Croydon. As per usual, we've got a series of pre-prepared questions, but we're going to see how the conversation takes us. Right, I'm going to start with a really, I think, quite interesting one, relevant one. What is Messianic Judaism? I do apologise.
Right, well, Messianic Judaism, we're a group of people who are either Jewish by birth or Jewish by choice. We are Jewish. We follow all the festivals of the Jewish festivals and keep the Shabbat every Friday. But we believe that the Jewish Messiah was Yeshua, as we call him, that's his Hebrew name, or Jesus, as the church would call him. We're not Christians, but we are Messianic Jews. And we believe that we're following the Judaism of Yeshua. And we try to go back to his teachings on the Torah and on the scriptures themselves.
That's brilliant. I think, as I said earlier, that my intention is to try and highlight all key people in the borough. And Messianic Judaism is a form of Judaism that people may or may not have heard of. So I was really keen. That's one of the reasons I was really, really looking forward to this interview, to promote. There are so many different faiths in Croydon. It's one of the Croydon's greatest strengths, as I think I went into in detail with the bishop yesterday. I really love that part of Croydon. Yeah. Everybody has a place here. Everybody. What sort of size is your congregation usually? Is that the correct word?
Well, yes.
I do. Yeah. I apologize if I've got that wrong.
We've been in existence coming up to 20 years. On April the 4th, it'll be our 20th anniversary. So we've been in Colston here all that time. We started off with 7 adults and 3 children. And now we're roughly about 40 people with the adults and the children. And it's a different congregation than when we started. I was warned that would happen, and yes, it has. You know, some people have come, they've moved on, maybe, you know, through work or family, they've had to move different places in the country. We have a very, very big amount of people from abroad. You know, we're a multinational congregation, really, and we have them from Romania, from Slovakia, Africa. I've got a few South Africans and Nigerians, Jamaicans. So we are a big, like I say, you know, and all our cultures, their cultures come into one, you know, and in Messianic Judaism, and they're a great people.
I say welcome to Croydon, and that just about sums up as from I often reflect on this channel about my greatest love for Croydon, which is that it is welcome. It's open to anybody. I'm not suggesting we haven't got our challenges, and there are difficulties, and the level of from some deprivations in some areas of the borough are serious, but we want and welcome everybody in Croydon, and it's its greatest strength. And I think you just summed that up so well.
Yes.
From my passion and biggest passion in life, I often go back to from on this channel, but in any opportunity, to be honest with you, I get is about early years. So it's everything about children and about pregnancy and becoming pregnant all the way up to the end of the primary school years. That's what I've ended up specialising in during my tenure as mayor. And it's really brilliant when you hear that congregations have very young children. It provides a family for those children in a much wider family than their natural biological family.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. You know, they say that when you've got a lot of babies being born, you know, it's a healthy congregation, and we certainly have. You know, in the last year and a half, we've had about 3 youngsters born. We have a lovely group of little ones. I think the oldest is probably about 9 or 10. And my wife, who's the Rebbetzin, she looks after the children. When I preach in the service, she takes them out and does activities with them. And when I say take them out, she takes them into another room out of the service. And they're lovely children. They are. And Judaism allows for the children, you know, and families are important in Judaism. So some of our festivals, you know, Purim will be our next major festival. And it's when the kids, they can dress up in fancy dress, and it's a fun time for them. And, you know, it's a great time.
Wonderful. It's so I could just envisage it. If things are safe to do so, I would be honoured to be involved in any way of any of your festivals.
Yeah, we'd love to.
When and if it's safe to do so, I want to be part of everything going on in Croydon. I think that's becoming pretty clear in these interviews.
Well, the last time we had the mayor come is when we had our Torah scroll, when we first bought our Torah scroll, and we had it dedicated, and the mayor at the time came down and took part in our festival, you know, our festivities. So we really
nice. Whenabouts was that?
We're talking about 10, 11 years ago when we first got our Torah scroll. And so yeah, normally the Torah is brought into the synagogue for the first time from the rabbi's house. Well, unfortunately, I live in Red Hill, and one of our members just lives around the corner, and so we decided that we would do it from her house, and we had the police to stop the traffic to see us across the road, and it was brought into the synagogue under a chuppah, under a canopy, which is, it's traditional that happens. And it was a great day. We had other congregations come and join us. And yes, we had an old lady who was a Holocaust survivor. And she said to me, she was in her 90s. She'd never been near a Torah scroll. In Messianic Judaism, our ladies are equal with the men in the synagogue. The men will carry the Torah scroll because it's heavy. But when we come to a festival called Simchat Torah, where we get to the end of the Torah, the yearly cycle of the Torah, and we're at the end of the scroll, then we read the last verses of the Torah, and then we rewind the scroll, and that's everybody, the children, the adults, all have a turn of rewinding the scroll till we're back to the beginning. And then we read the first verses of Genesis, of Bereshit, and we start the cycle all over again. Now, so our ladies get to do that. This lady had never even done that. She'd never been anywhere near the Torah scroll. And so I asked her, all our congregation was going to read one verse of the passage that we were reading. And I asked her to read instead of me. And so she came up, 91-year-old, she came up to the Torah and she read from the Torah for the first time. Obviously, she understood it, and she has a Tanakh, which is the Torah in a Bible, and the whole of the what you would call the Old Testament, we call the Tanakh. But she'd never read from the scroll itself. And it's great. We had a photograph taken later on with the mayor, myself and the mayor. Wonderful, with tears in her eyes, she was able to read. Absolutely wonderful.
What an absolutely incredible story. And genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for sharing that. You can see how moving I found it.
Yes.
I hope it from our viewers feel the same effect. And that is such an incredible story for a Holocaust survivor to be able to go from that horrific place to that moment of where she gets to read the Torah. It's incredible. Yes. It really is absolutely incredible to hear. It's very difficult to be able to respond to that. That's the danger of doing these things live. As regular viewers will know, I'm quite an emotional person. So when I hear something like that, it doesn't look too professional from an interviewer perspective, but it's real and it's true.
Emotions.
Do you happen to remember what the mayors it was? I'd love to be able to speak to them about it. Which of my predecessors it was?
I really can't remember her name. I can look it up. I have a very bad memory, and
no, that's fine. I mean, if you get an opportunity, there's no pressure, but it would be lovely to be able to.
I will look it up and let you know that. Yes. Yeah. So.
I'll see if I can get my office to try and work out who it was as well. They'll have the list of all the previous mayors. Was it Avril, actually?
There's a lady.
It might have been Avril Slipper, maybe.
That doesn't ring a bell. Again,
maybe it might have been.
Pick it up and let you know.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's to be taken offline from viewers, but yeah. I think that's a really. Not only is it such a powerful story, obviously it's perfectly placed for the sort of wider subject of these interviews.
Yes.
Without giving any spoilers alert, I've pre-recorded my introduction from the video for Holocaust Memorial Day. I sat from where I'm sitting now, and just wrote and just typed what the first things that were coming into my head. I've always tried to go to the Holocaust Memorial event in the town hall, but I've always found it so emotional and so difficult that I've at best hidden away, apart from when I was deputy mayor last year, when obviously part of that is being there and being front and centre, because I don't know if I bring anything to it by getting emotional. But I was very prepared when I took on this role for the fact that it was going to be one of the hardest bits of this, of not being able to break down. And the anger and just raw emotion I feel about the fact that human beings still can't learn the lessons that we learned from the Holocaust. And it just happens again and again. We're all human beings.
Yeah.
I just can't comprehend how anyone could be that evil.
Yeah, my daughter is 28, coming up to 29, and well, actually, no, sorry, I'll get it right. She's 29. She'll be 30 at the end of the year. And we went when she was a young girl. We went as a group to Auschwitz, and it was a horrendous time. We had people in our group that had relatives die there. And the tour, you start off in the main camp, and it was an ex-Polish army barracks. And that's the one where you see the sign above saying, work means freedom. And it really hits you when you go there. And I get annoyed with Holocaust deniers, because you go there and you certainly see. We stood in the gas chambers. There's only one left. We stood there and you could see the scratches on the walls where the people, when they were dying, were trying, just couldn't do anything. And we went into these big, long buildings and we saw cabinets, glass cabinets, filled with suitcases in one room. Another room would be filled with hair, where they'd taken the hair off the people. And another room had glasses, spectacles, just thousands of them in these cabinets. And then we got to one, and my daughter was next to me, and it had shoes, thousands of shoes in this cabinet. And there was a tiny little pair, obviously from a little child. And I couldn't hold myself. I just wept, and my daughter was trying to, comfort me at the same time. But it was real. The Holocaust was real. And there wasn't just Jewish people who died. There was many more people who died in the Holocaust. And some people think, should we keep remembering these things over and over? Well, I think yes, because still the lessons haven't been learned, And if you go to Israel and you go to Yad Vashem, there's a place called the Hall of the Children. And as you walk in there, you stand, and I don't know how they've done it, but they have one candle, and the mirrors that they have make it look like hundreds and hundreds of candles that's burning, and every child's name is mentioned in there. It did happen. It was real, and we must learn the lessons, not just from Judaism, but from all faiths. And that.
Yes, absolutely, perfectly put. The truth is that, as you say, it happened, and people that are Holocaust deniers are. No, I won't go there because I don't think it's going to be appropriate for daytime viewing.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, you just see the evidence. It's real. Millions of people died on an industrial scale. Yeah. And I think we do need to keep remembering it. We keep need to learning the lessons, because it's so easy for it to keep to happen, and it has happened again.
Yes, yeah. And
it will happen in the future until at such time as the human race realizes our own capacity for evil. From this year's theme for Holocaust Memorial Day, Be the Light in the Darkness, was a great inspiration for me in my opening speech. The fact is that if all these things are allowed to happen because human beings don't stand up and say no, because people haven't learned what happens if you don't say no. And it's easy to know until you're tested, but my kind of like promise that I've always made myself is that I would stand up and be counted. When something goes wrong, I'll say no, I will. And things and the trouble is, people, because of fear, because of not wanting to face reality, because of all sorts of natural human responses, basically, essentially, good people don't stand up and be the one to say no. And we need to learn that we cannot take that easy option.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, the majority of good people keep silent when they should speak out,
Well, this happens to me sometimes in interviews where I think, where do we go from that conversation? Because I'd be happy to leave our viewers on that key message. Stand up and be counted. If it seems wrong, it probably is. And so stand up and say it. You be counted, whether it's going and voting every 4 years, whether it's just going up and saying to your friend, please think before you say or do or that view.
Yes, yes.
Whatever your bit is, do it. But the next question we had prepared was about how long the synagogue's been in existence in Croydon and how long you've been a rabbi, but we've sort of discussed that in our introduction. So I think it's probably a good time for us to move on to the third question, which is about COVID.
Yeah.
I've asked this of almost all of our interviewees. How have you found that your community has coped with COVID?
Well, to start with, straight away at the beginning of it, I was shielded. I do have medical conditions, serious ones, and I was shielded for about 5 months. I started myself before, about 3 weeks before we were told. And so it was difficult, obviously, from the start. We broadcasted on Periscope from home, and we are still broadcasting on Periscope. I'm one of those who was very reluctant to publish my sermons. I don't know. I'm one of those rabbis who, this is my congregation. I'm their rabbi. Therefore, I minister to them. But I was being pushed to record my sermons, and I've been dragged into the 21st century, if you like. And I think COVID, from that point of view, has been amazing. I do have some old people that really do not want to come out and come to services. We've got vulnerable people. And so from the start, like I say, we broadcasted from home and every week, and we could bring people in to read scriptures and what have you. It has affected us because some of the people we've not seen since the beginning of the COVID. We have a family comes up from Brighton. We're not just based in Colston. We are the only Messianic synagogue south of the River Thames. So, for instance, only this week, I've had 2 contacts, one from Brighton and one from Bournemouth, asking about Messianic Union. And all I can say to them is, we are the nearest one to you, but we are broadcasting on Periscope. If you want to join us, I can send you the details so they can come on and join us. And we have there's about 53 people signed up. And we're getting about 24, 25 watching it, and then some will watch it later, and go back and watch the recording. So it has, when our community was coming together so well, it has affected us quite a bit. I do have people who are frightened to go out, and even just to go for a walk. They're frightened to do so, but I can understand it, and we just pray that someday soon that we'll be able to re-establish our services. When we had the break in the summer, we got back into the synagogue, and I could only allow 20 people in because the synagogue we were in wasn't very big, and to allow for this, the 2-meter rule, and we had to be very careful, wearing masks. The singing, this causes us problems, and because a lot of the service in Messianic Judaism is liturgy, and it's chanted or sang, and so that caused us a problem. But like I say, through our broadcast, I've got some good guys in the synagogue who are technically minded, and they were able to set cameras up and to allow us to broadcast. I'm looking forward to getting back into the synagogue again, and I think we will broadcast every week from the synagogue, even though, if everything's restored, because it's been a good outreach to us. My colleague up at Norwich, in the Messianic synagogue up at Norwich, they've been I've only broadcasted to people who've asked to come in or people from the congregation, but he's broadcasted widely, and they've had over 2,000 people on their services tuning in. So from that point of view, it's been very good. We've had to try and keep in touch with our older people, and talking about bubbles. My daughter, she will come and if she needs to drop anything off to us, she'll drop it off at the front door, knock on the door, and then stand at the end of the path while we come. But I've got other people that we have to make sure that, like the extended bubble, support bubble, to look after them. So it has been hard, it's difficult, and we just want to get back to how we were.
Well, that's absolutely, I couldn't agree with that more. Then one message that I often give on this is that this will end. There will come a time when COVID is part of history. It's not a part of life.
Yes.
Well, I'll rephrase that. I think it will always be with us, but I think there'll come a time when these restrictions are passed. Yeah. But they will come all the sooner if we do the right thing. If we social distance, the moment we stay at home, we wear our masks when we absolutely have to go out. And most significantly, when our turn comes, we take our vaccine.
Yes. Yeah.
I always take any opportunity I can to promote that. Yeah. There's so much disinformation about vaccines available. And I always think it's ironic because I often say a lot of that is available on YouTube, and then realise very quickly after I've spoken that I'm currently on YouTube. So it feels like a bit of a hypocritical thing to say. But don't listen to likes of me. Don't listen to other YouTubers. Yeah. Listen experts. If you've got questions, go and ask your doctor. Go and ask your rabbi here. Someone that doesn't have any vested interests in giving you the right information.
We've had quite a few new people just through the COVID that have joined us, and at the beginning of the COVID back in March, I was contacted by a group in Kenya, and the leader there his name's Elijah, and him and his wife look after 11 orphans, and they have widows. He has 4 children of his own, and he's got 7 of those orphans living in his house with his family. They don't have any water. They have to travel an hour a day and then back again an hour to get water. He joins us every Monday morning and every Thursday morning. He joins us for our prayers at 7:30, and this has been amazing because we've had it's called Shacharit prayers, and normally from 6 o'clock onwards people can pray the Shacharit prayer, but we start at 7:30, and they're 3 hours ahead of us, so they join us as well. And this morning we had our Shacharit prayers. There was 10 of us on there, all from different, all over the place, and they join us. And while we're praying, we can hear the cockerels crowing in the background, and we've been able to help them. We've sent money out. We bought beds for them. The children were asleep, 3 to a bed. And they couldn't do that, so we were able to raise some money, and they got 3 double bunk beds for 6 of the children, and we've paid for them to all have shoes. They didn't have any shoes, and Elijah's doing really well. He's struggling, but he's become a friend. We on every week. I do Hebrew on a Wednesday afternoon with them, on all of this on Zoom. So it's really had dragged me into, like I say, being able to use these facilities.
I think that's a story that we're seeing across the board. It did speed up so much the the introduction of technology into everybody's lives, and
Yeah.
though we're still seeing significant barriers from in terms of access to devices. What we are seeing is a breakdown of the from barriers to digital enablement.
Yeah.
That were very much there. I know from my mum's on Zoom. If do you want to put in the comments any way that for any viewers that feel moved by the story of Elijah may wish to contribute to your campaign, feel free
Yes,
to put
please.
some ticks.
And if anybody knows of an organisation that we can get to go and put water in, they need a pump in where they are. You know, to have to
Water aid, isn't
for
it?
us to be able, you know, to be friends with them and talking with them and sharing with them, and knowing that they have to, you know, 2 hours a day they're going to collect water. It's something difficult that I find. You know, we've got everything at our fingertips. And there I am talking on the internet to somebody who's become a friend thousands of miles away, and yet we can't help supply water. So I'm hoping we can find an organization or a company that can go out there and help them out. And I know there must be some.
I'll ask my office to see if we can do some research, see if there's anybody. I know I've got a feeling Water Aid do it. I think they advertise on TV quite a bit about for encouraging donations. But I'll get my office to do some research as well. And any viewers that have contacts or know of any way that we can help this family, please get in touch with myself or from the Rabbi at any moment. We'll be very, very pleased to hear from you. And
they have widows in their congregation, and some of the widows took some of the orphans to live with them, which was good, you know. And the scripture says to look after the orphans and the widows. That's strong in the Torah.
Well, that I couldn't agree with that more. As I've said, children and young people, but children especially, are my passion. I've been very, very open about that. I've got 2 small children of my own, and I got pregnant at exactly the same time as I got selected to be a candidate for the first time as a councillor, and gave birth 10 weeks before I was elected. So every single moment of my political career has been influenced by having become a new mother. Exactly how could I have not been specialising in this area? It would have been completely incongruous if I hadn't. Now, you've suggested a question talking about big changes that have happened in your congregation. Is that something you were talking about with your changes online, or have there been other significant changes recently?
No, there has been a big change. The building that we've had for the last 19 plus years was owned by an old friend of ours. She was part of our congregation in the early days. And she's looked after us, and we've paid a minimum rent. She's been really good. We've had to look after all the repairs and things, but it's a very old building, and we got notice given 18 months ago that they had to. She died. The lady died, and that her daughters have been trying to sort her estate out because she had different properties. Besides ours, basically we've lost the building, and we have to be out by the end of this month, 31st of January. And so I'd been looking around for other buildings, property that we could rent as a synagogue. Bearing in mind, the building we had was ours 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And some of our people saw it as their spiritual home. But, God works in mysterious ways. And while we've been looking in one direction, obviously he was going to take us in a different direction. And a congregation just down the street from our building. They were looking to Messianic Judaism, and they wanted to change to become Messianic followers. And so between us, we're going to unite. The two congregations are going to unite. It's going to take a few months because obviously we're a trust, a charity, a trust, and they are. So there's lots of legal things for us to look at. But I'm in their building now, and this is going to become our synagogue. We are going to change the name of our synagogue from Zerah Avraham, which means seed of Abraham, to Etz Chaim, Messianic Synagogue, which means tree of life. And it all comes down to a prophecy that was given to us many years ago, which I thought had been fulfilled. And then what's happened in these last few months with us, it's just been incredible. So we're in a transition at the moment, and on the Jewish New Year in September this year, on Rosh Hashanah, we're going to inaugurate the new synagogue, the new congregation, and it's exciting for us. The pastor of the church is now training to become a rabbi himself, which I will help in the training. But he's a younger man than me, and I'm hopefully, when I have to come to the retiring age, then he's there to take over. But everybody's excited about what's happening, and it's just wonderful what God does. But there's a lot of work. I've got one of our men is trying to build an office in here for the Rabbi intern and myself. And there are other things. We've got to get cameras put in here now for broadcasting. So when we can get back into worshipping in the synagogue, then we can continue doing that. But it's a great time, for all of us. And we're looking forward to the future and what the future. And I know I've got this down as a question. What does the future hold? Well, we're really keen and looking forward to it.
I think that's is a very powerful question. You talk about what the future holds. That's your future, and I think it's quite an important thing for us to look at as often as we can. Is when I say about this will end, there is a better future around the corner.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not naive enough to think that the world will go back to exactly what it was this time 2 years ago, but or this time a year and a half ago even. But because I don't think it should. I don't think that we should forget the lessons that we've learned as a result of what's happened due to COVID. And there has been so many other moments in the last year that have been so influential and have changed society, sometimes for the better, sometimes not. And we should learn those lessons, but there will come a time, as I say, when this is over, and that it's kind of beholden on all of us to come up with a better future.
Yes, yeah.
Learn those lessons, and we have an opportunity to create a better world. It sounds corny and it sounds idealistic, I know, but it's the truth. I look at Black Lives Matter and everything that we learned over the summer. Certainly for my part, everything that it completely made me reflect and change my outlook on life. Yeah. I learned so much, and that's an example of what we have learnt as a result of what's happened. We need to make a better future, and it's so lovely to hear a story that you have found a new home, and you're creating another future where two groups of people are working together. So well, it gives you hope.
Yes, definitely. And our organisation is that we're part of is the Union of British Messianic Synagogues. we have an extended organization, which was the European Union of Messianic Synagogues, because we had congregations in Ukraine, in Romania, we got a group in Finland and Sweden, so we were our work was extended into Europe, and my colleague in Norwich and myself would travel, and I'm not a traveller. And there I found myself in the middle of Ukraine, totally strange for me and everything. But we've had some wonderful times. And what's happened now is that other people have contacted us that, like Elijah in Kenya, we've got congregations in India, Guatemala, Malta, and just over in the last year, 2 years, that have contacted us. So as a movement, we've had to say, okay, maybe we'll lose the Europe title and have the United Messianic Synagogues as our international outreach. And it's incredible. We are now training 5 rabbinic interns to become rabbis. And again, you know, this is the future, and it's a future that I never ever thought I'd be part of. I'm the chair of the Bet Din. The Bet Din is a group of rabbis who makes what you do. You look at scripture, and you look at all the scriptures on certain subjects like divorce or marriage or just different subjects, and we have to come up with what they call a halakha, which means the walk. In other words, this is how we walk out what the Torah says or what the scriptures say. And so, you know, we are busy, like I say, training other rabbis. Our first female rabbi as well will be one of them. But things are good. One of my the questions was about here in the community. I've just been talking about reaching out. Here in the community, we built up a really good relationship with the local junior schools. And we've had them come regular for a few years. And it's one of my highlights, one of my delights that I have. We set some tables up in the middle of the room, and I put articles from every festival that we have out on the table, and they come and I talk to them about the Messianic Judaism and Judaism as a whole. I talk to them about the different festivals that we have, and we always have Jewish festivals always have food with them. You know, there's a comment that said that our enemies attacked us, we won, therefore let's eat. Let's feast. And so there's different foods connected to different festivals. Like Hanukkah that we just celebrated was to do with the oil, with the lamp. So we have food that's cooked in oil, like potato latkes and donuts, which the children love to have. And so what we do, we have a little bit of food, a taster for them. And we let them have them and a drink of juice when they're here. But they have a taste of each bit of food, even the matzah that we have, the unleavened bread that we have at Passover, and apples dipped in honey for Rosh Hashanah, for the new year. So we have a bits like that for them to have. And then I get the Torah out and take it onto the beamer. And then they come up 2 at a time and have a look at the Torah scroll. And they love it, you know. And then I've had letters later on, you know, a week or 2 weeks after that, where the children have written down or drawn a picture and written down, this is what we saw, you know. And I love the shofar, that's the big antelope horn that we blow, because it sounds like an elephant, you know. And lots of, I mean, you know what children are like, some of the funny things that they come out with and say. And it's wonderful. And we've been doing this for a few years, and the schools have come into us. But that's extended a bit broader. You know, I'd like to say on here that of any of the senior schools, if they're covering Judaism or anything, and they want to see a synagogue, they can come and have a look, or we can come to them and bring some of our articles with us to let them have a look at. But it's been brilliant having them coming in, not just the schools. We have youth organisations like Cubs and the Beavers come in as well, and it's fun for them.
I think that it's interesting. Obviously, another thing I talk about is homeschooling, and this couldn't have been a better timing and no great surprise, I suspect, for the timing they've arranged it. But my son's homeschooling for RE was Judaism this week. Oh, and I just remember thinking that he shouldn't be learning that from me. He should be going out and learning it from you.
Yes. Yeah.
I got quite emotional because it made me another thing that's been lost to this year, and it's a small, tiny little detail in the grand scheme of things, but it's just symbolic of it.
Yes, yeah.
And it then led on to one of the things I desperately wanted to do when I got selected to be deputy mayor and then mayor. My plan for the year was that I was going to try and fill the town hall with children. I was like, every week I'm going to have a party of school children come to the town hall to come and learn about their community, about the local democracy. And if I get one person from each school that then would vote than when they wouldn't have done, or would get involved in some way in their community, whether it's getting involved in their local, in their religious communities, or whether it's getting involved in politics, then it's really made something impactful. And one of the biggest things is going to be a loss of opportunity for our children. From genuinely rich and powerful opportunities to experience that. It's just an example of what they're losing by being at home and homeschooled by someone that's like me. And I do absolutely everything I can for my son to make sure they give him everything I can. But I'm a poor substitute for a teacher. And for those rich, real.
Well, my wife is a teacher, and my daughter is a teacher's assistant, and going to train as a teacher as well. So, but my wife was a teacher with special needs girls, and even their school came down to the synagogue, and they have about 11 girls at the most sitting around with their staff. The teachers come as well. And some of the teachers say to me afterwards, I never knew that. Really, thank you for letting us, and they learn something new every time they come. But it's amazing. And we want to do more now in the community. We didn't have, in the small building we didn't have the room. Here we do have the room. And one thing that my wife has set her heart on is starting a hygiene bank. So, we're going to be reaching out with that. She's got the details, and we've got room for storage here, so we can, if people want to donate. I don't know if people know what a hygiene bank is, but it's you collect soap and towels and toothpaste and toothbrushes, anything like that, to do with personal hygiene. And the people who organise it, they tell you, or they give you where to go and distribute it. So they don't come in, but we go out and take it out to them. And that's one of the plans we have for this year, for getting this off the ground.
Brilliant. And if it happens in my mayoral term, I'd be honoured if I open it, or if I can help in that in any way.
Right. Yeah.
Genuine.
Yeah. Let's get the COVID out the way.
Yes, let's get COVID out the way. Tragically, it is 5 to 12. I don't know, quite sure where the time went.
Yeah.
Which brings us on to what I hinted at just before we started the interview. There is something which we call closing argument. It's an idea that I have stolen lock, stock and barrel from my favourite podcast. Sorry, you know who you are if you're watching, who I've nicked the idea from. but it's where I stop talking, sit back, and I give the last word of the interview to my interviewee to talk about whatever they want, whatever last message they want to leave our viewers with.
Right. Thank you. Well, I'd just like to say, that, I mean, I've been in Croydon, in the Croydon area and Red Hill area for a number of years. I came down to London when I was 19 from the northeast, Hartlepool. It's where my relatives are. And I've been down here in London in different areas. I worked in the Salvation Army hostel in Whitechapel for 2 years before going into the Salvation Army College at Camberwell and training in the ministry. I never ever thought I would be a rabbi. Never crossed my mind. I wasn't brought up Jewish. But in my journey, I discovered my Jewish background. And my mother's 90, and my Jewishness comes through my mother, and she's in denial that she's Jewish, but she never knew, and I never knew. So I never expected to be a rabbi running a Messianic synagogue. I was in the Christian ministry, and I was very happy doing what I was doing. I wasn't in charge. I was the second in charge. Somebody else had the responsibility, and all of a sudden I was thrown into this, and it has been an incredible experience in my life, changing my life, my wife's as well, and God has just blessed us for these 20 years that we've been doing this. And I would say to people in Croydon, there are places around like us and others that if you don't know anything about, we would be happy for you to come along and see us. Certainly drop me a line. We have a website, Zera Avraham Messianic Synagogue, and they can contact me through that. And if they want to come along, once the virus is over, if they want to come and join us on our services, then they're free to do that as well, and we can set up with them. Unfortunately, Periscope is stopping in March, the end of March, so we've got to relook at this. But we will be broadcasting, and we'll let people know what we're doing. I've enjoyed talking to you, Maddie. It's been really nice, and look forward to seeing you and doing more with you.
I would be honoured, genuinely. That would be wonderful. Thank you all very much. This is the last interview for this week. We will be having more, but as usual, I'm not going to give away who our interviewees are in advance. But thank you all so much for watching. Please keep tuning in, as I think you'll be realising I don't claim to be the world's greatest interviewer by any stretch of imagination, but Croydon has such a rich variety of people to talk to that I'm sure